District and the Board of Directors of the Carefree Water Company will come to order. Please take a silent roll call. We're all present and accounted for. Agenda item number 1, approval of the November 12, 2024 joint meeting of the Board of Directors of the Town of Carefree Utilities Communities Facility District and the Board of Directors of the Carefree Water Company meeting minutes. Any comments from the council? Councilman Johnson, I think you had a correction.
Yeah, there's a couple typos in this where it's got Tony Geiger and Clint voting on a matter when they couldn't have possibly been together. So.
Yeah, exactly. So those present, we know who was there based on the minutes because it shows who was there. So that should be corrected to show. It should be corrected to be identical. So the first couple are correct, but like item number 3 is wrong. It shows Tony Geiger being there. And then the item 5 is also incorrect. It shows Geiger, and it should be Vince DeLisio on both of them. So I think.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, when we're picking up old things, because that's easy to do, we have to make sure that the information's correct.
Exactly. So I would say, I would entertain, if there's no other comments, I would entertain a motion to approve with those corrections.
Motion to approve the minutes with those corrections.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Passed unanimously, thank you. Item number 2, presentation of the proposed fiscal year 25-26 Town of Carefree, Arizona Utilities Community Facilities District, Carefree UCFD budget, informational only. Mr. Crossman.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. What I'd like to do is start with an overview of our organizational structure and also an overview of our budgeting process. But before I do that, I have a couple staff members here tonight I'd like to introduce. Next to me is Megan Orem. Megan's been with the water company for, I believe, 16 years now, and she's developed probably 16 budgets at least. And so she's very well versed in the budget, so I'm glad to have her here to help me out in this budgeting process. Yeah. I didn't know if she's going to make it. She's a very busy woman with 4 kids, and so we pull her in. She works for us only on a part-time basis, but we do pull her in, and she primarily focuses on our budgeting and our audit. And so, and with us also tonight in the audience is Nikki Matzdorf on the left over here. Nikki is our staff accountant. She's new to us as of last year, 2024. She started with us. She's now learning the budgeting process. Megan is teaching her our budgeting process, so she's got a great mentor. And then next to Mickey, we have Manuel Jones, who's our field supervisor, and Manuel has been very instrumental in developing the operation and maintenance portions of our budget. So welcome to those staff members to this meeting. I'd also like to welcome our 3 new board members. This is the first board meeting for a few of our board members. So welcome Board Member Johnson, welcome Board Member Rose Skirty, and welcome Board Member Roth. Welcome aboard, pun intended. So I did say I wanted to start with with showing you the organization, very high-level organizational structure of the water side of our organization and the town. Let me see if my laser pointer is going to work. Can you guys see that on the board? Yes, good. So this is a very high-level organizational structure. On the left side of this structure is the town of Carefree. On the right side of this organizational structure is the water side of our organization. And you can see that there is a solid red line that splits this screen in half. What that signifies is that the water side of our organization is run as a typical enterprise fund, and the way a lot of municipal organizations run their water system, their wastewater system, their sanitation system. So there is a very definite distinction and separation between the town of Carefree and the water side of our organization, which is the UCFD and the water company. We have separate financial books, we have separate revenue sources, and we have separate management. But for all of those differences, we are also very much tied at the hip. We are very close to our brothers over at the town, if for no other reason because of you guys, the town council, because by virtue of your elected positions, the way we've set up this organizational structure, you also then serve by default as a board of directors for the UCFD and the water company. So although we are very separate, we're very much kind of the same. To give you a little bit of background on the formation of this organizational structure, in 1998, the town of Carefree did decide it wanted to purchase the Carefree Water Company. At that time, the Carefree Water Company was a private water system. It had private shareholders. So in order to do that, the town of Carefree decided to use a fairly unique and somewhat complex structure, although it's not so much complex but not intuitive. It decided to form a UCFD, which is a Utilities Community Facilities District, a legal governmental entity that's formed under the state laws of the state of Arizona. So it formed this UCFD, and we call it the UCFD for ease because Utilities Community Facilities District is a mouthful, or you also hear me call it the Carefree UCFD. And one of the primary focuses of forming the UCFD was for the UCFD to purchase the water company. And what it did then was, in this whole purchase mechanism, the stockholders in the private Carefree Water Company became bondholders, and then that allowed the UCFD to become 100% stockholder in the Carefree Water Company. By design and by structure, it left the Carefree Water Company in place, and again, by design, a lot of the heavy lifting as far as providing water to our community, to the Carefree community, is done by the Carefree Water Company. We hold the water rights for the benefit of the town. We order water from the CAP canal. We have Scottsdale treat that water to potable standards and transport it to us through a treat and transport agreement. We pump groundwater where we need to. We deliver that water to our customers. We then bill our customers and generate revenue, and we track all that revenue. All that's done by the Carefree Water Company. But there are circumstances why we have an interconnection between the UCFD and the water company, and that's primarily because the UCFD does hold all of the debt service for this organization. So since the water company raises all the revenue does need to flow up to the UCFD to pay those debt service obligations and also to pay our rent. So you can see there is a very unique relationship between all of these organizations, and because there are three, it's fairly complex and difficult to understand, but it does work very well for us. So as of 4 o'clock, when we opened up this meeting, you're acting as the board of directors for both the UCFD and the water company. At around 5 o'clock, when we close this meeting and you open up the next meeting, this green box will then switch over to this side of the chart, and you'll be acting as the town council. So any questions on that organizational structure? All right. Next slide is a summary of our budgeting process. It is a two-step budgeting process, just like the town's budgeting process. First step is tonight, May 6th, where you'll be asked to approve the proposed or preliminary budgets for both entities, both the UCFD and the water company. You'll also be asked to hold a public hearing where members of the public, our ratepayers, our citizens, can comment on those proposed budgets. That'll be followed up by a meeting about a month from now on June 3rd, where you will be asked to adopt the final budgets for the UCFD and the water company. And the water company's budget also includes our rates, fees, deposits, and charges. So again, everything you'll be acting on tonight is proposed or preliminary. And then you won't be acting on a final budget until the June 3rd date. Drilling down into the specific agenda items that we'll be addressing tonight, agenda item numbers 2 and 3 will be for information only. They're presentations by me to you as the board on the UCFD budget and the Carefree Water Company budget. You won't be asked to act on an item until we get to agenda item number 4. Well, you will be asked to address and approve a resolution that would approve the proposed or preliminary budgets for both the UCFD and the water company. And that same resolution will call for a public hearing. If that resolution is approved, under agenda item number 5, we will hold that public hearing. So, any questions on that process? Okay. If it's okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll move into agenda item number 2, which is my presentation to you on the proposed fiscal year. We're talking tonight about fiscal year 25-26, be the proposed UCFD budget for next fiscal year. The actual budget for the UCFD is fairly simple. It's a one-page document. It does authorize and gives budget authority for the UCFD to make all debt service payments. That's one of the primary functions of the UCFD, is it holds all debt service for this organizational setup. It also, this year, it gives us budget authority to complete 2 capital projects that we have on the books. The first one is the Peaceful Place Booster Pump Station Improvement Project, which was approved by the board for construction in December, so it is under construction right now. We do expect that project to be completed by mid to late summer. What the completion of that project does for us is it allows us to provide fire protection services to the Peaceful Place neighborhood, which is an existing neighborhood in the original Carefree Water Company service area, and it also allows us to transition over the last 24 customers that actually reside in Carefree but are served potable water by the town of Cave Creek. So at that point, when we're able to transition those customers over, we'll throw a big party because the transition and acquisition will be completely done. The other capital project that this budget item allows us to do is the Silver Saddle Pipeline Improvement Project. Very happy to report that we have received and have been granted an EPA community grant for that project. It was formally awarded to us at the end of March, on March 28th. So we'll be able to use those monies to help construct that project when we've got to first get it out on the street, get bids, and then award that contract. Just a real quick summary of the sources of revenue for the UCFD and the expenditures on the UCFD. This just kind of summarizes our one-page budget document. The primary source of revenue in most years for the UCFD is going to be the Carefree Water Company. And the Carefree Water Company will fund and finance for the UCFD the primary expenditure of the UCFD, which is our debt service obligations and our rent obligations. And this year it's to the tune of $1.4 million. This year we also have 2 other funding sources. That would be our EPA grant that we just talked about of $800,000. And we also are holding that the town capital advance of $2 million that was issued to us in fiscal year 23-24. Those 2 monies and 2 funding sources will be combined to then fund our 2 capital projects to the tune of $2.8 million. So with that concludes my presentation on the UCFD budget. What I would like to do, if it's okay with you, Mr. Chairman, is to move directly into agenda item number 3, which is the presentation on the proposed Carefree Water Company budget. And then at the end of this part of the presentation, we'll open it up to any questions that the board might have, if that's okay with you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, I agree. So let's move into agenda item number 3.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This slide shows you kind of a general flow chart overview of our budgeting and rate setting process. I haven't used this slide in a couple of years, but because we have 3 new board members, I thought it would be helpful to discuss and use this flow chart to explain the processes that Megan and Nikki and Manuel go through, and I help a little bit too, to do our budgeting. Where we start in this budgeting process is down in the lower left-hand corner. of this flow chart. What we first have to do is figure out what our fixed costs are going to be. Those are the costs that we have to spend to deliver water to the residents of Carefree. First and foremost is the cost of water. We need to purchase water from the CAP canal and bring it in from the Colorado River to us. We have to pay Scottsdale. We have a treat and transport agreement with Scottsdale. They take that surface water, they treat it to potable standards, and then deliver it to us. We have to pay APS for pumping the groundwater that we utilize. So all that factors into the cost of water. We have to figure that out. We need to figure out what our general and administrative costs are. That includes our payroll. That includes all of the things, all the expenditures that we have to deliver water to our customers, to bill our customers, and to accept that revenue and account for that revenue. We also have to figure out what our replacement and maintenance costs are going to be. Those are all the costs that Manuel and the field staff need to maintain our system and allow it to deliver water to our customers. We are a 24/7 operation. We operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and we need to make sure that we can do that. When we go home at 5 or 6 o'clock, we can't shut the water system off and say, you'll have water at 6 o'clock when we get back in, except for Ralph. We'll do it. And then finally, we need to know what our cash outlays are. We need to know, and that primarily consists of our debt service obligations that the UCFD has, and also our rent payment for the building that we occupy. We do rent that from the town. So once all of these costs are figured out, we then, Megan then feeds that into our profit and loss analysis. And then we move into this upper part of the flow chart, where in normal years, we kind of bounce back and forth in an iterative process between trying out different water rates and figuring out how much money we have left for what I call discretional costs. This year and over the last 4 years, this has been a little bit easier process because we've had a 5-year rate plan, and we've decided to stick with the 5-year rate plan, which says each of these last 5 years will have a 4.4% rate increase. So what we've done is plug that into our water rates. We feed that back into our profit and loss analysis. We figure out how much revenue that generates. We take out our fixed costs, and then that allows us to then determine what our discretional costs are. And our discretional costs are those items that we don't have to do, but we really should do. It includes putting money in reserves, our capital improvement program, and which includes our capital equipment program. So that's generally an overview of what our budgeting process looks like. Some considerations, rate considerations for this year, for our upcoming fiscal year 25-26, we did decide and think it was very important to stay the course as far as our 5-year rate plan and being consistent with that 5-year rate plan. This is the last year of our 5-year rate plan, so we have stuck with a 4.4% rate increase this year, even though a lot of our major indicators were indicating that the inflation rate that was impacting us was higher than 4.4%. The water industry is very much impacted by energy costs and by material costs, and those are staying a little bit higher than the overall inflation rate in the country. And as you can see, some of our major indicators are showing APS rates are going up. We're anticipating about 6%. So those are power costs. Our costs for CAP water, to buy untreated water from the CAP canal and deliver it through Scottsdale, are going up 14%, primarily because of the shortage conditions on the Colorado River. Our costs under our treat and transport agreement to Scottsdale, for actually them to accept our water, take it and make it potable water and then deliver it to us, are going up about 5%. Our general and administrative costs are going up about 9%, primarily because of two regulatory requirements we're needing to fulfill this fiscal year. So we'll talk about that in just a minute, but those are going up 9%. And then our replacement and maintenance costs, fortunately, we have one line item where Manuel and the field staff, kudos to them, are actually kind of keeping a lid on it. They're only going up 4%. So another kind of summary slide on our budget and water rate increases and what impact that has on the average residential customer, average residential bill. Under this plan, the average residential water bill will increase by about $5.69 per month. That's based on the average residential usage of 12,000 gallons a month. Our projected revenues for this coming fiscal year are expected to increase by about $200,000. The fiscal year we're in right now, our revenues are expected to be about $5 million, and I think we're pretty much on target for that. And next year they're expected to be about $5.2 million. And kind of interesting piece of information. At the end of 2024, beginning of this year, 2025, we had a total of almost exactly 2,600 customers. Just a short 3 years ago, at the end of 2021, beginning of 2022, we had very close to around number of 2,000 customers. So in the matter of that short 3 years, our customer base has increased by 30%, which is an exponential, astronomical increase for any organization. So kudos to our staff for actually absorbing that growth in our organization with very, very few hiccups. Kind of drilling down into each individual line item of the budget. First of all is our cost of water. This is our single biggest line item in the water company's budget. Our overall cost for water is going up about 6% to $1.8 million. We talked about the increase in cost of CAP, raw or untreated water, the increase of cost to have Scottsdale transport that water to us, and also the APS increase in price, which impacts the ability or the cost for us to pump our groundwater. And just generally, we have a larger service area now, so we need to buy more water to serve our customers. So that factors into that increase in dollar amount. G&A, or general and administrative expenses, are going up about 9% this coming year. And that's a big part of that is two regulatory expenses that we need to have and that we put those regulatory expenses under the G&A. The first one being lead service line determinations, and we budgeted about $75,000 this fiscal year for lead service line determinations. Just to give a little bit of background, in October of last year, October of 24, we, like all other water systems in the country, had to prepare a service line inventory, a lead service line inventory. The fortunate piece of information that came out of our inventory was that to date we have not identified any lead service lines within Carefree. We have 2,600 service lines, 2,600 customers. Of that 2,600, 1,400 we have determined and have certified as non-lead, based on primarily on when they were constructed. They were constructed after the lead ban that took effect in 88, 89. 1,200 of our customers, however, are not lead, but they are unknown because of when they were constructed. They were constructed before that lead ban. So we are very optimistic, very confident that we do not have any lead service lines in Carefree. Lead was not a common service line material in Arizona, let alone in Carefree. Just to give you an example of all the millions of service lines that were inventoried in Arizona, we've only found 5 lead service lines in all of Arizona, and none of those are in Carefree. Those are all very far away from Carefree. So we're very confident that we have no lead service lines in Carefree, but we still need to do the field work to make that determination and move all those unknowns from the unknown category into the non-lead category. The $75,000 will take care of 600 of those 1,200 unknowns, and next year we'll budget the same amount and take care of the remaining 600 to get hopefully all of our service lines moved into the non-lead category. The second regulatory category or area where we need to have an expense is an update for our emergency response plan and our risk and resilience plan. Those two plans were first developed in 2021. They are required to be updated every 5 years, so we are due for an update. And we've had major changes to our water system. We had the acquisition of over 500 customers. So we are due for an update of both of those plans, and we've budgeted $50,000 to do that. Also included in G&A expenses are our payroll expenses, which are going up about 4%. That includes a 4.5% cost of living adjustment for all employees. And we have added one part-time office staff, which has helped us out because we've absorbed all the additional work in growing our water system by about 30%. So it has helped out very much to have that part-time staff as part of our office staff. All right, moving on to replacement and maintenance. Again, kind of Manuel's bailiwick overall. He's keeping, him and the field staff are doing a great job at keeping the lid on the cost increases in this category because we've got a larger service area to maintain. It's larger by about 30%, so there's a lot of additional replacement and maintenance costs. And material costs are going up. They're going up considerably. There is some good news as far as in the replacement and maintenance area, and that our supply chain issues that we've been dealing with for probably the last 3 or 4 years since COVID hit have been really annoying. They're getting much better. Some of the materials and equipment that was taking us anywhere from 6 months to a year or more to even 2 years to get, now that's been reduced down to probably 1 month to 6 months, I would say. So very much a good little glimmer of hope as far as being able to get the materials we need to operate the water system. Reserve fund. This is our rainy day fund. It's one of these discretional items that we talked about. Our reserve fund balance right now is just over $1 million, $1,040,000. We recalculated what we feel like our reserve balance should be last year because of the growth of our water system by 30%. Our target went up to $1.4 million. It used to be $1 million. So what our recommendation was last year, and we're staying the course, is to deposit $40,000 every year for the next 10 years into our reserve fund, and at the end of that 10 years, we'll be at our new reserve target of $1.4 million. So slow and continual saving. Our capital improvement program, another discretional item for this coming fiscal year, is just over $315,000. We will be installing or replacing 3 fire hydrants within our service area. We'll also be, as far as system improvements, we'll be replacing some old and outdated non-functioning water meters. Also be doing some pipeline replacements to the tune of just over $186,000. Be making an annual deposit into our capital equipment fund. That's a fund that we use to buy our work trucks, our towing trucks, our backhoe equipment, our Vector equipment that helps us dig holes and repair our water lines. Any kind of big capital equipment expense comes out of the capital equipment fund. Excuse me. And then the last item under this capital improvement program is water rights. We do fund our water rights investigations and acquisitions under capital improvements. We have 2 line items under that. We have the last payment for our NIA water, which is our non-Indian agricultural CAP water. That payment this year is $16,000. When we're done with that, we've paid completely for our NIA water. And we also are budgeting $43,000 for our continued participation in the Bartlett Dam discussion. So that rounds out our capital program. And then finally, some other notable changes as far as our rates, fees, deposit, and charges. First one is our Stan Piper fill station for water haulers. We are recommending a 40% increase in that commodity rate. We looked at the market, and that's what the market is bearing right now. It also will help us recover our cost of providing this service to the community. We're also raising our minimum charge for a standpipe customer if they've used any water. Right now, our minimum is a nominal $5. We're raising that up to $20 minimum charge. And just to give you a little bit of background on our standpipe and fill station, we do have a policy of no new accounts for our standpipe, and we do have usage limits on our standpipe because back in 2023, when Scottsdale shut off the Rio Verde area for water haulers, the word out on the street was, oh, well, that's okay. We'll just go up to Carefree and have our water haulers get water from Carefree and haul it down to Rio Verde. And we said, no. We are a small community. We have everything that we can do to provide water to the Carefree community. We also don't want to support Carefree and Rio Verde. And that's when we put in our policy of no new accounts and put usage limits on all of our customers to what they used in previous years. So a little bit of background on our standpipe fill station. Eventually, we probably would like to phase out the standpipe, but that will be in future years. And finally, we are recommending an update to our water supply fee. Our water supply fee is a fee that's charged only to new development. The idea of the water supply fee is that it reimburses our citizens for money we've already put into our water rights and our water supply, and it also sets up a fund where we can go out there and look for new water supplies and water rights to help bolster and firm up our CAP supply, which is still looking kind of tentative right now based on the continuing drought and the discussions between the lower basin states and the upper basin states on the Colorado River. So that recommended fee increase is 44% on a per acre foot basis. I know it's hard to wrap your mind around what that means. It's just under $5,400, but to put it more in terms of a single family residential structure, that fee, the money that a single family residential unit would put into our water supply fee would be just under $2,700. And for a multifamily residential unit, it would be just under $1,350. So with that completes my budget presentation for both the UCFD budget and the Carefree Water Company budget. And what I'd like to do is open it up to any questions that the board might have.
Okay, well, Greg, thank you. It's a good job, as always. Well done. So, questions from council?
So Greg, for the standpipe, you think there's possibly a couple Carefree residents that might be using that, but otherwise it's outside of the community?
We really have three types of users that use the standpipe. There's water haulers, and a majority of that water gets hauled. In my opinion, we haven't really ever done an audit, but knowing the water haulers gets hauled outside of Carefree. There's contractors who do construction projects. Again, probably a majority of those projects are outside of Carefree, but I would say there are a few contractors who end up with projects within Carefree. And then there's the individual mom and pops that come and fill up and haul water to their residents. Out of all of those three, I think very few, there's very little benefit to Carefree customers. It's mainly a service that impacts and benefits others outside of the Carefree boundaries.
Other questions? Oh.
I could
Oh,
have a question.
okay,
On the pipeline, where is it that we were carrying?
We're kind of holding that actual budget in abeyance right now. We want to see how the Silver Saddle pipeline project goes. We also are having discussions with Scottsdale on the Carefree Highway improvement project. It has the potential of impacting some of the water lines in Carefree Highway. So we, as yet, have not determined that that project will have an impact on the water lines in Carefree Highway. But if it does, I would like to have that budget available for that. The drainage on that Carefree Highway project has turned into a much bigger piece of the puzzle than we anticipated. So those are the two possibilities for that water line budget.
And then, the problem that we're gonna have in the future with the Colorado River, the negotiations, nothing signed, it's looking expensive, we're getting cut significantly on the water. How are we projecting that forward? How will we deal with that?
Mr. Chairman, Board Member Roth, that's a very, very complicated discussion. Fortunately, some people before me had some foresight in Carefree to acquire enough water rights, enough CAP rights to make us look right now like we're sitting in a very good situation. We've maintained our ability to pump groundwater. We use that judiciously. We pump as little as possible, and so we can maintain our groundwater basin. So we think we're sitting in a very good situation right now, even if there are cuts. Near term, it's looking like the cuts could be in 2027, 20 to 25% for M&I users. We can weather that, we feel like. It's going to be, what do we do in the future if this drought continues? And probably more in the long-term future is what I'm looking at. Short-term, I think we're sitting very nice because of work that my predecessors did. What I want to do is also leave that legacy and have enough water resources so that we can say that in the future also.
Well, is the Bartlett project hopefully will offset some of that?
Correct.
And the 43,000 was on top of the 35,000 we done a couple of years ago. for
Correct.
Ryan.
Yes, this is an annual payment to participate in the Bartlett project.
Variable increase.
Yeah, and then what we need to do is figure out how we would pay for the capital cost for Bartlett. This is just to participate in
Right,
that study.
participation.
Right.
The
This
capital costs
will
will be.
be in the millions of dollars.
Yeah, fairly significant.
Yeah, significant dollars.
Yeah, big one.
Yes, yeah. And weighing the benefits and the cost.
You have a progress report on where we're at with that?
With Bartlett,
Yeah.
there's 21 entities that are participating in the study. Just recently, we've got news that the budget is increasing significantly. All the parties are trying to absorb that and figure out what to do, but we are moving, everyone is still moving forward. No one's dropped out of the process because it's one of the few water resources out there that's not too complicated. The federal government's involved, so we're hoping that may be part of the solution. So we're looking at Bartlett and the Colorado River jointly to figure out what's our future water look like. It's not an easy situation.
Is it a proportional, you said there's 21, are we all putting the same amount in, or is it decided
No.
by the size of the town, and so it's a proportional?
Correct, Board Member Roth. It's been at least preliminarily allocated based on what communities' needs are. They've allocated to us up to 1,155 acre feet. That would only generate on average about 330 acre feet a year, but that's enough to really bolster our CAP supply when it's in really high demand and not available. Yeah, we have gone through some of the bigger communities with higher need, have bigger allocations, and we're one of the smallest allocations, but we still think we need to hang in there and stick with the process.
So I just wanted to follow up on the fire hydrants.
Mhm.
So I saw that we're adding 3.
We're
Is that
replacing 3.
Replacing 3. So they all work now? Because in times past, they weren't all functioning.
We've got one that is not functioning right now, that's out of service. We have, in this fiscal year, we have budget, we have actually bought a replacement hydrant. We have plans to install a new one, probably at Cave Creek and Tree Line Trail. And then we're triaging all the rest of them. There are some out there that are in worse condition than others, and what we'll do is we'll just pick out the worst of the bunch and say, look at the age of it and say, this one's ready for replace. We could rebuild them. Sometimes when we go in there and rebuild them, we find it's not worth it to rebuild it. Let's just replace it. And that's kind of what we're expecting, and that's why we've budgeted for replacement of 3. When we get there and tear apart the guts, we say, no, let's not put this one back. Let's replace it.
Okay, but other than that, we're in pretty good shape now?
Yes, yes, we're in very good shape. We now have 400 and probably 30 fire hydrants, up from in our original service area was 270. So a significant increase in fire hydrants that we've had to maintain. This year was the first year that the water company in rural metro went out and did the entire community, including the acquisition area. So we exercised all of the system. And the year before that, we told rural metro, no, do the original system. We want to take a look at what the acquisition area looks like. We kind of got it up to snuff, and we let them go out and do the whole system. So we're making progress.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just a quick question. I know originally Cave Creek was not part of the Bartlett expansion. Have they since
They have
joined?
joined the group. They did come in late. They came in just under the wire
Okay.
until right before the point where the communities were saying, okay, at some point we have to cut it off. Cave Creek was allowed to come in. They have requested 1,000 acre feet, so just under what we got. And so they are actually have taken over probably as the smallest allocation. And I don't know if they've gone through the whole allocation process, but they are part of the group.
And when they joined, they had to make good on all the payments
All
that
the
they
payments
missed.
and previous payments that we've already made, they had to get caught up. Yes,
Exactly.
Mr. Chairman, that's correct.
And oh, you finished, I'm sorry. Okay. When we do the lead lines and the risk and the reliance calculation, do we go to someone else to do that? In other words, you have a contractor or something
Yes,
for both those things?
we'll have a consultant do that. It's a lot of, it doesn't sound like it, but it is a lot of work. And so we'll probably go back to the consultant who did the original study, see if they're interested in doing it and updating it, since they have all that background, and hire a consultant to do that, yes.
Okay, very good. No other, go ahead, Clint.
So are the fire hydrants on Peaceful Place active now?
They are not yet, not until we get that project done. So they still have black bags over them, but that's where I was saying,
Okay.
once the booster station gets done and we get it up and operating, we can remove the black bags along Peaceful Place, and we'll have an operating fire hydrant system in that neighborhood. And I know the residents have been very, very patient with us. They've been very great. And along with those 24 residents who have not been transitioned over, they've been great and very understanding, and we're anxious to get those two things accomplished.
I noticed a great big generator outside of the pump station. Is that being replaced, or?
That actually was inside of the pump station complex. We moved it outside the pump station complex because we are doing work in there, pouring a new pad for it. When that pad gets poured, we're going to pick it up and move it back in. We had to reconfigure it a little bit, so it will disappear here soon.
Great.
It was always
I'm drawing
You
plans
don't like it
on
when
the
you
lot
drive
next
by?
to it.
Well, we thought it was a nice fixture outside the compound. The neighbors might not, but
Okay, if there's no other questions, we'll move on to agenda item number 4, which is the public hearing portion of this process. So
actually it's the approval of the resolution. So let me just go through agenda item number 4
Okay,
for you real quick, Mr. Chairman. You are being asked to approve Resolution 2025-01, and that resolution does accomplish 3 things. It does approve the proposed or preliminary budget for fiscal year 25-26 for the UCFD. It also approves the proposed or preliminary budget for the Carefree Water Company, which includes our rates, fees, deposits, and charges. And then this resolution also orders the public hearing, which will be done under the next agenda item 5, if this resolution does pass. So I do have a possible motion up on the screen for the board. if anybody would like to make a motion.
But do we have to first have a, let's make sure we understand this. So we're going to have a motion to approve these items, but we have to have a public hearing first?
No, this approves having the public hearing. So first, we have to order the public hearing. We have to, I'm sorry, let me back up. We have to have so it approves the preliminary proposed budget for both of these organizations. Then we call for a public hearing on the proposed budgets. And then under the next agenda item, we'll have approved budgets that we can then take public comment on. I know it's a little
Okay,
bit confusing.
I understand.
It's very, but we have to follow state statute. and
Convoluted,
it's,
but I get it.
you know,
So I would entertain a motion as appears on your screen.
So,
Motion, oh,
go ahead.
okay, motion to approve resolution 2025-01, approving the proposed fiscal 25-26 UCFD budget and the proposed fiscal 25-26 Carefree Water Company budget and rates, fees, deposits, and charges, and ordering a public hearing.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. So now we have a public hearing.
And Mr. Chairman, all you need to do is, I believe, Dennis might help us out, you open the public hearing. We'll take testimony from anybody who wants to provide testimony, and then we'll close the public hearing, and we'll be done until next meeting.
Okay, so the public hearing is open. Do we have any speakers?
I have not received any card yet.
Okay, very well. So the public hearing is closed. And now we will entertain a motion to approve the resolution?
We're
or-
actually done.
Oh, we're done?
You can
Oh,
move
because
on
we're gonna do
to,
this,
agenda.
okay. Yeah, I think okay,
Yeah, we're just setting the, this
Yeah,
is the permit. This is
correct.
setting the rates at the top, so you
Right.
can go above what you.
so based on the approval, the vote on the resolution, we now have a proposed budget for both organizations. We've had the public hearing. We received no comments. We can then move forward into next month's meeting with a final budget.
Okay, very good. Yeah, we do. Any other comments before we adjourn? So hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, very well. Thank you.
Thank you, board members.
Good meeting.
Appreciate it. King Gary says, don't touch.